Hello, good day once again. We are going to learn something new in this video. First of all, we are going to learn how to tell or how to know the rating of your submersible pump. Some people that have submersible pumps in their house, they don't really know the rating, that is the size of their pump. And sometimes they normally ask the engineers or the technicians that was the rating of my pump, whereas the rating is written on the labels of the pump. That's one of the things you're going to learn in this video. The second thing that you're going to learn in this video is you're going to learn how to troubleshoot your pump. In most cases, when a pump develops faults, in most cases attention is being drawn to the submersible motor itself, because there's a motor in the submersible pump buried under the ground. So attention is being drawn to that motor, thinking that the fault is coming from the motor, whereas that is not the case. Sometimes the faults may be coming from the control box. The control box is the one that is outside, that is installed in the house or outside the house or closer to where the pump is, but it's outside. That one is not being buried inside the ground. But for the motor itself is buried with the submersible pump under the ground. So when you are having faults with your pump, don't just assume that the fault is coming from the motor, because there are so many factors that can go wrong. Don't just assume that the fault is from the motor. So you ended up digging the submersible pump from the well inside the ground. Then after digging it up, then you stress yourself, not knowing that the fault is coming from the control box. So the best thing to do is you start to troubleshoot for where the fault is, starting from the control box. Then after you have done that and you are cleared that there's no fault in the control box, the control box has the capacitor, the control box has the switch, the control box has the connectors, the control box has the surge charge, they call it breaker, some call it circuit breaker. Yeah, so you make sure that the control box is tested for faults and everything in it is working perfectly well before you can draw your final conclusion that the fault is coming from the motor. Before you can now, after you have done all your tests in your control box and discover that there's no fault there, you can now draw your conclusion that the fault is coming from the motor inside the submersible pump, the one buried inside the ground. Before you can now go ahead and dig it from the well inside the ground. After digging it up, then you take it to where they're going to fix the motor, then install it back inside the well, inside the ground. Then before you know it, you put power into it, then to start working. But if the fault is not coming from the motor, then the fault is coming from the control box. Then you have to check the control box. It may be either the capacitor, maybe either the switch, maybe the switch got burnt, maybe either the surcharge or circuit breaker, whatever they call it. It can be either the circuit breaker or it can be either the connectors. Maybe the wires is not rightly connected, so you can check for there. And if you observe anything there, then you fix it, then the pump will start working. So that's the major problem you can have with your submersible pump, popularly known as borehole pump. Those of you that uses borehole, then they call it borehole, they call it submersible. So that's it. So I had a challenge with a submersible pump that I work with. Yeah, I had a challenge Then I did a lot of work, I did a lot of troubleshooting. These were the challenges that I faced. When I on the pump the very first time, the switch was on, then the circuit breaker, after spending about 5 minutes, the breaker had to trip, pop out. And when I observed it, I was like, what is going on? Then I waited for some time, I on it the second time. After offing it, I pressed the breaker, then I on it again. I waited for some time, then after 5 seconds again, the thing tripped, the breaker popped out again. So I knew that something was wrong with the pump. So I off it. I waited for some time. Then by the time I on it, the switch tripped off. The indicator in the switch did not on. Then the breaker did not trip again. So that was how the pump stopped working. So what I did was, I was like, what is going on? Maybe something is bad, or maybe the motor winding has been spoiled. So I was just thinking, or maybe it's the capacitor. So what I did was that I opened the control box and I started testing for faults from each and every component inside the control box. So I started with the capacitor. Though my multimeter doesn't have microfarad, doesn't have the place where I can measure for microfarad. So what I did, I used the traditional method. I put the two ends, the positive and negative, on an AC supply, then I bridge it. So I got a very loud spark, meaning telling me that the capacitor is 100% working. So after that, I observed that the switch is bad. The switch got burnt. So I disconnected. Before I even started, I disconnected the power from the control box. So I removed the switch, I replaced it with a new one. When I on it, it's on, but the pump was not making that humming sound. That humming sound that will tell you that the pump is actually pumping water. So I wasn't hearing that humming sound. So what I did next is I was suspecting that the fault is coming from this circuit breaker. So what I did was that I disconnected the circuit breaker, I removed it, and I replaced it with a new one. And this time around, the new circuit breaker that I bought tripped off and popped out. So when it popped out, I knew that there was something wrong. So I now replaced it with another circuit breaker, which was 15 amps. The original breaker that was there was 12 amps, which was tripping, and eventually it tripped off and refused to on. So I went to go and get another breaker again, which is 6 amps. It also trips off again. So I knew that no, I need a higher breaker. So I went to go and buy a 15 amps breaker. So that one worked and refused to trip off. So when I installed it, I on it, the pump started working perfectly well. So I had a lot of challenge while I was working with the pump. The pump stressed me out, but I was able to do it and solve that problem. Now, for those of you that doesn't know the rating of your submersible pump, I'm going to show you how you can know the capacity, the rating of your submersible pump, and this is how you are going to know from the labels written on the body of the plastic cover. And this is how you are going to know. You look at it very well. They wrote here Coffret de Commande. That one is French, so if you are a non-French speaker, then you have to ignore that. Then you have to come to where it is written in English. When you go down, it says control box for S.PH electric motors. Then you Then you come down a little bit, you see this is what 220 volt to 240. You see the frequency. When you see this symbol, it means that this is alternating current. So at this row, you see HP. This means horsepower. Here is 0.25, here is 0.33, here is 0.5, here is 7.5, 0.851, 1.25, 1.5, 1.75, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, and so on and so forth. So for you to know the rating of your submersible pump, this is what you are going to do. You look at the marking here. There's a mark here. Have you seen it? Then it signifies that your pump is 1.5 horsepower. Look at it here, 1.5 horsepower. Then you come down. If you are looking for the rating of your capacitor, you look at the symbol for capacitor, microfarad. This is 12, this is 13, this is 18, this is 23, and so on till 110. So if you want to know the rating of your capacitor, you look at where this symbol is, 45. This dash symbol is under 45. So and you come down. If you're looking for the rating of the breaker in your control box, you can see here is amps, right? This is the rating, these amps. So this is 3, this is 4, this is 15, this is 12, this is 14, all to 40. So if you want to know which breaker you can use for your pump, you check where the dash is under the number. So for this particular pump, the dash is at 1.5. So this pump is 1.5 horsepower. Then the capacitor is 45 microfarad. Then the surge protector, that is the breaker, is rated 12 amps. That means at 12 amps it can trip off to protect the pump from excessive current or any short circuit in the circuit. So this is all you need to know about the rating. I'm so shocked. Some people doesn't know how to tell what horsepower pump do they have. So this is the easiest way to know. The markings are there for you: 1.5 horsepower, 45 horsepower, then 45 microfarad, then 12 amps. So this pump that I just worked on is a 1.5 horsepower, 45 microfarad, then 12 amps. Thank you very much. Hello guys, there's a very big problem in this control box. The switch is not working properly, so I had to do some troubleshooting. Then I discovered that the switch is spoiled. The reason why it is not switching on is because the wire connecting to the switch got burnt. So I am going to get a new switch to replace it. So this is the 15 amps breaker, this one here. So the moment I put it, I replace it with the 6 amps breaker. So that solved the problem, and the breaker did not trip after I introduced supply into the control box. The breaker did not trip at all. That means that the breaker is able to contain the current that is flowing into the control box. But in the other case, where it was the 12 amps breaker and the 6 amps breaker that was there, it tripped off, telling me that the current is excessive, and the reason why it trips off is to protect the pump itself. So me changing it to a 15 amps breaker, it means that the 50 amps can control the current entering into the control box and entering into the pump. So that solves the problem for the for the tripping up of the circuit breaker, and the moment the electrician changed the line from the previous line it was before, then the current in the other line that was changed to increased very very well. So that's the reason why we're having this issue. So I have solved that problem. Guys, finally the pump worked. After suffering me for a very long time, I got 2 breaker for it. So this is the breaker, this one you are seeing is the breaker. So I got 2 breaker for it, and the first one I got was 12 amps. The second one was 6 amps. So the 6 amps could not work properly. So I went back and I bought another 15 amps breaker, which is this one here. So this pump has been suffering me for a very long time. Since morning I've been here trying to troubleshoot. After testing if the capacitor is working, which is this one here, after testing it was working. I troubleshoot and I tested for faults in the contactor here, this connector. I tested for faults and everything was okay. So this the switch was bad. The previous switch that was there was bad, so I changed it to a new one and it started working. So what was giving me issue was the breaker was always switching off, was always cutting off to protect the control box from excessive current. So what I did was that when I changed the circuit breaker, which is this one here, to a bigger capacity, this one is 15 amps. The one that was there previously was 12 amps, which was giving me problem, continuing tripping off. So I got a 6 amps, which also gave me the same problem. So I went back to get an upgrade of 15 amps. So the 15 amps actually served the purpose. So when I on it, the thing did not trip off. So it means that the 15 amps is the correct rated circuit breaker for this particular submersible pump. So I'm so happy that I was able to solve this problem today. Thank you very much.